Hi, folks. Welcome to another Witty Wicklow Writers Workshop. Together with Jeroen and Maria, we'll tackle the hardest parts of writing, the taboos, the distractions, and the addictions that can shape or sabotage a writer's journey. So we'll dive into three things as usual, and you are free to add a couple more. And the first will be how to responsibly write adult content and violence without slipping into clichés. Second, why video games and other addictions can both inspire and derail your creativity. And third, how to face the challenge of writing emotional, difficult, and deeply personal pieces. But as I said, this is not just about the three of us talking. We want and we encourage your input. So please let us know your comments and questions in the chat box that is already open. And if you read it, you can see a question for you, which is, what taboo or struggle do you face as a writer? So please let us know in the comments. We will pick it as we chat between the three of us. So, and nevertheless, don't forget to like the stream, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode with fellow writers and creatives. That way we can keep growing the community and having these conversations that matter most for every single of us. So let me just greet my good friends. Maria, how are things on your end?
All well. I'm just back from holiday, so I feel refreshed and ready to write again because I was very sluggish during the holiday, and I've worked on writing down ideas more than getting any actual work done. So yeah, back to school, I guess, with me.
Back to school. That's September, no? I always think of that when it's September. It's kind of a new beginning to me. But maybe we can talk once about the months and the seasons and all that. Jeroen, what's up with you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. All good. Yeah, back into summer's over, back into the normal routine of all the back to school, back to normality. But yesterday it was kind of funny. I forgot my phone at home, and I just realized that you actually feel naked when you go anywhere without your phone now. You really do. And I was on the train, and I was like, oh man, I don't have my phone. Nothing. I can't listen to anything. I can't anything. So I wrote loads yesterday, both on the way in and on the way home. So I was like, I'm going to use this constructively and get some good writing done, which happened. So yeah, I'm all good. Yeah, slowly getting there,
Maybe I should lock my phone away.
Experience the other day, Jeroen. I had my phone, but I didn't have access to my Facebook account. So my Facebook account was suspended for some mysterious reasons. Yeah. So I couldn't use it for 2 hours. And I was freaking out. I thought, what I'm going to do without Facebook? And look, I have so many other applications on the phone, but it seems that Facebook was like a vital organ within the phone that I couldn't function. Because the thing is, Facebook sent me a message saying you cannot access your account, and we cannot guarantee if you will ever get it back. So I thought, how am I going to survive without Facebook? And now that I look back, a week have passed, I can move on with life. Yeah, that will be strange at the beginning, but there's so other ways to be in touch with others. But at that point, I was just stuck. So I also felt a bit naked. Sorry, Maria, you were saying something, and I probably cut you off.
No, I think I spoke over you. I was thinking maybe I should lock my phone away to be as productive as Jeroen is without it.
The mad thing is, what I was thinking of was, how did we do anything without phones?
Yeah.
It's not that long ago. I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, whatever it was. And we did stuff without phones. And now if you don't have it, you can't get into your bank. You can't, all your money is on it. You don't know what's going on in the world. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But I was like, okay, right, I'm going to use the time that I have and just write. And actually it was very productive. So I was like afterwards going, you know what? Maybe I need to do that a bit more,
Yeah. Actually, when we were traveling at the beginning of September, we attended a wedding, and my girlfriend rented a car, and we took a few people on the car from the church back to the wedding venue in Romania, and none of us were Romanian. I'm lying. One was Romanian, but from a different part of Romania, and we're using GPS to go from A to B. And one of the lads just said, imagine 10, 15 years ago, people would be able to do what we are doing without GPS, and we are here like sweating, praying that the GPS is working. We did, but we were so relying on the GPS, and people did that for decades.
Yeah,
they did just fine.
Yeah, exactly. And there was no problem. They still found their way. Do you know what I mean? Like, even if they were unfolding maps studiously in the back of a car or trying to, but they found their way, and we're so addicted to it now. It's absolutely nuts. It's everything is in it, and you feel completely, like somebody took your arm off or something like that for the first little while. It's a really weird feeling.
Well, I mean, it's good for passenger princesses. It used to be a difficult job, but not anymore. Now you can just sit there and do nothing while the driver is just going along trying to figure it out himself.
Yeah, it's true.
Case A, Exhibit A.
So now that we are on the topic, let's start with that. I thought we would initiate with the spicy stuff, but we will start with addictions, video games, and all that. So, Jeroen, would you share your relationship with screens in general, in particular video games for this purpose, but all sorts of apps and things that are taking place in devices these days?
Yeah, sure. I mean, up to yesterday, I would have thought that I was not really all that addicted to it at all. And then, I suddenly realized that I really was uncomfortable about the fact that I didn't have my phone with me. So I guess my phone is probably the biggest screen that I'm using. It's, and it goes like everybody else. It goes everywhere with me. And, I find myself looking at it, even to the point where you've just looked at it 5 minutes ago and nothing's changed in the world, but you find yourself taking it back out of your pocket again and having another look just in case you missed something in 5 minutes. It's madness. So yeah, I'd say that's my biggest addiction. I probably other things, like I never really got into gaming. Tetris and Lara Croft Tomb Raider 1 and some football game from the 90s was about all I ever got into. And so gaming, it's just not for me. I haven't really got it. Once people start talking about gaming, I'm like, I don't know. I haven't a clue. But yeah, the phone is a big thing. And I think that from, now on, I'm going to actually try to, I thought that I had been lessening my use of the phone until yesterday when I forgot it. And I suddenly was like, oh man, what am I going to do? And I can't move money and I can't do this and I can't. And then like half an hour later, I was like, yeah, you're fine. You've got your cards, you've got your, all that kind of stuff. But I'm actually going to try and constructively and get away from it a bit more, because I do find that it takes up so much time. And especially, and we've spoken about this before, as a writer, you find yourself distracted by the phone or by, I don't know, whatever. Yeah, the phone is probably the worst one. And instead of going and writing, you find yourself just, and then you're like, oh crap, 45 minutes has gone by and I haven't done anything with it, because what are we really doing on a phone? We're keeping up with stuff, or what I mean? Like, so I'm actually, since I'm really going to try and make a determined effort to use it less and to less be involved. And I wouldn't say that I'm using it as much as other people, but I do think that I'm overusing it. And I want to try and break that a little bit, because it stifles your creativity. And the most important thing is, everybody's time poor, and that just robs your time, and when you could be doing something completely different, So yeah, that's kind of my thing. I am definitely going to be less on it, or try to be less on it. I don't have addictions to games or anything like that, but reading the news for the 50th time that day.
Yes.
Whoopity do. Yeah, it's still all crap. Do you know what I mean? Like reading sports news again. I'm like, really? Do I need to do that? No.
Yeah. And what I realize is that even if you are not touching the phone, let's say we have the phone in the same room as you, it will somehow impact your mood, your attention levels, because it's like a device that it's there and it's teasing you. It's a temptation. Like if you don't know what to do next, there is always the phone. If you want to find something controversial or funny or outrageous, the phone will provide that to you. So if you are, let's say, stuck, if things are gray, if you find yourself bored, don't worry. The phone will spice it up. And sometimes we need to be on those moments where nothing is happening and there's nothing wrong about it. Like we lived, as we were just discussing, we lived for ages in a period where things were not happening at a fast pace. Occasionally, you receive the odd news here and there, and that was okay. We were not behind the road. We were just living at our own rhythm, and that was okay. But I found that if the phone is in the same room as me, I'm not as focused as I wish I am. So I realized that if I want to be away from the phone, it's not just that I'm not using the phone. I don't want to see the phone. I don't want to notice that the phone is around. So, and the other thing is to have dedicated times, let's say, to use the phone. So I'd rather spend 30 minutes checking crap on the phone and then spend an hour not seeing it and not these mix and match, because otherwise you are just lost and overwhelmed. And Maria, I'm very curious about video games because you brought this topic to the conversation. So the floor is yours because I really want to listen.
Thank you. I'm more addicted to video games than I am to my phone, I have to say. Although I tried to make a switch away from my phone as well this year because I realized that my reading count had really dropped. Now I have one of these apps where you can input, the books you own, the books you're currently reading, what you've read in the year, and set yourself like goals and stuff. And I was looking back at 2024, and the number of books I had read was abysmal for my like usual reading habits. And I thought it's because I spend so much time on my phone, and I'm not active on social media, not really. I mostly use them to keep in touch with people. But it's it's like scrolling through platforms and putting all my things in my phone calendar instead of writing an agenda. So every year I will buy this agenda, I don't use it because what if I forget it at home and I need to look at my millions of appointments? Not at all. So I also noticed that I'm carrying it with me everywhere I go. Like I'll take the laundry upstairs to put it away. I carry my phone with me because these 10 minutes that it will take me to put things away, I need to be distracted somehow. So it's this constant need. What if it rings and you're not there, as if, the most crucial things in the world are going to happen when you're, I don't know, going away to wash your hair or something. So I said, I'll completely stop using it right before I go to bed. I'll switch on to reading instead. Even if I'm not sleepy, I'd rather read because that will make me sleepy more than the phone with the bright screen and stuff does. But still, I cannot say the same about video gaming because that is my biggest passion. I've been playing for years and years and years. There's actually like pictures of me as a 2-year-old being in front of my computer because my dad used to work as a translator for Microsoft content. So we had a computer in the house from very early on, I think. So we had, some games from Virgin Media from the early 90s and stuff. So thankfully, my parents did not let me spend as much time as I would have wanted. It was very control and everything. But that didn't stop me from having my first real job working for video games. So it just went downhill from there, I guess. I will spend some time playing usually every day because that's my safe space. That's how I unwind. And I also try lots of different games that have different things to offer. So it's this constant stimulation, which can be very bad as well, because then you just end up being addicted to it. And like, I was on holiday and I thought at some point, oh, wouldn't it be nice to go back and continue like that game that I finished? And I was like, it shouldn't be like that. I should not be thinking about it when I'm on a holiday enjoying myself. So yeah, I will spend a lot of time away for it if I have to. Like, I wouldn't leave work aside to play, or I wouldn't, cancel on appointments and stuff. So I think it's probably the step before that, while it's still borderline healthy. But no, I find video games, to be honest with you, almost as a great way of escaping as reading books is, especially if you pick your games wisely and you try things that are a bit more meaningful and engaging, instead of, I don't know, just shooting people all the time, I guess. And I'm learning a lot of things from them. And I think they help me a lot visually, because I create a lot of visual imagery when I write. So all these different places that I'm seeing in games, it helps me visualize, okay, the building looks like this, or, oh, that tree looks interesting, the way these branches are spread out, this I could use for this and this and that. So I take something from it as well. But yeah, it can be a very, very dangerous black hole if you don't time yourself, and if you don't try to have any control over it. You can very easily become addicted to how, especially now with all the crazy visuals and how many options there are in games, it is very, very easy to get addicted to it. And let's have this conversation again in a couple of years, see how I'm doing.
You are a fantasy writer. Do you think there is a relationship between the two? Because both are about different roads with different creatures. So you think your interest for video games is somehow correlated to your fantasy writing?
Yeah. As you have guessed, probably, I usually play fantasy games. So it's more about storytelling and like music and the way they're painted and what your goal is, and it being like a lot of dialogue and stuff, instead of shooter games or platform stuff where you would have more interactions with other people than just being yourself and playing. So I'm a sucker for a good story and a good narrative, and there is a lot of options out there if you like things like that. So that's what I'd mostly play. But I also like games where you have to organize stuff, again on a fantasy setting, but like you're building your own village. You make sure that there are production chains, so that feeds off my ADHD, I think. But yeah, fantasy games are going a long way, especially now with all the new graphics and everything. And there's virtual reality as well, which is even more dangerous, I guess, as much fun as it is, because you can really immerse yourself in a world. The music helps, the way the graphics go help. Some games seem hand-drawn, some others just like look really realistic for their fantasy setting. So you can experience a lot of different things. Or like you're at the back of a dragon, for example, and you're jumping down, and it's like you are having this experience actually. And it is very helpful for writing as well. I'm actually saving some of those videos because I, want to describe something. Okay, how does it feel to look down, like that on the back of a thing? That helps. I should like in the future to not be reliant on that at all, to be able to, cultivate my imagination enough so that I will not need to see something to get an idea out of it, or I will be able to describe something without actually seeing it like that. But for the moment, there is this relationship. I'm enjoying it. I'm learning from it. I'm getting ideas from it. But at the same time, I feel that if you let yourself play too many games, and even sometimes read too many books, as a writer, sometimes I feel like, okay, so am I going to get an original idea, or am I going to combine all those different things that have overstimulated me? And then is what I'm writing really my own, or did I take a thing from there and thing from here? And I think that just ties back to how we should be less reliant on technology, because you need the space every day to free your brain out of all these distractions and just think for yourself without having content, I guess, brought into you from anywhere, even if it's books. I find the same thing with books, because I read a lot of fantasy. Sometimes I think, okay, was this my own idea? Did I combine this book and that book and come up with that? Which is, it's not necessarily bad, but you want to have your originality preserved as well. And sometimes it feels impossible.
Yeah, let me encourage the viewers to let us know what's the relationship with screens, video games, and all sorts of stuff that you can find on those devices that are taking our time, if not our life. Like myself, I was not much into video games, even though as I was a kid. But I had a very bad relationship with screens in general. With your permission, I'm going to share here on camera that I had a very bad relationship with betting and adult content for a while. So I want to share that with people because that's something that I want to be open about it in the future. I found my way out, and I hope I can help others to realize what's wrong with them. And if I can provide some tips, I'm more than happy. But I'll be honest and transparent in this podcast and share. I'm not proud of that, of course. I'm actually embarrassed because it's not something that you would feel happy with, but that's a fact. I actually explored that theme in a book that I'll be publishing late next year, which is a book I wrote when I was in Israel in June about the war with Iran. And somehow the topic of adult content came up during the writing and during the time I was there. So I really want to expand on that because I think it's quite dangerous these days because we have access to things that are not positive, for your mind, for your values, for your understanding of life or others. So that's for sure something that I think it needs to be object of a public discussion without constraints, without taboos, and not necessarily glorified. Now, I'm not in favor of banning that kind of industry. As a matter of fact, I will have an OnlyFans American girl in the podcast in October, so I'm discussing this directly with her. I think it's good to have these honest and real conversations. So yeah, I just want to share that. But in terms of phone as such, I find funny that I cannot go to the toilet without the phone. I feel it's like a monk moment. Now you are like having a Zen experience if you're not there without it, and it's just like 2-3 minutes. And the other time that you are not using your phone is while taking a shower, and it feels so liberating that you cannot use a device. I mean, you can have speakers, as you mentioned here on the other time, that you are taking a shower, but and the speaker is there, you can listen to the music, but you are not touching it with your with your fingers, or you're not watching with your eyes. It's somehow there, but it's not the same oppression, I would say. But they can be very, very dangerous, and they can be addictive, and addictions are a terrible thing for writers because you cannot write if you cannot focus. So if there's something out there which is taking your energy and draining you, as a human being, there's no point to be talented or to be gifted because you won't have the soul, to do the work and the exercise. Addiction is an awful thing. I could be. I think we had this conversation once, like I could be addicted to alcohol, but I'd rather not. But it's very easy to fall into that. I was thinking about that yesterday, and it's another one that can affect your writing because again, might provide you with that experience, might provide you with a cup of emotions that you may use in the future, but on the long run, it's gonna drain you. And you don't want that.
I think it's like everything else, though, Vitor. I mean, everything in moderation is okay. But once it gets to the point where it has to be the be all and the end all of your day, or you have to do that thing, during the day, whatever it is that you're doing, then it's an issue, and unfortunately it's an issue that a lot of people have to deal with, be it addiction to drugs, to alcohol, to whatever it is. There's things you can be positively addicted to as well. Like, I mean, I am addicted to music. I can't live without it. I'm totally addicted to music, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think there's ever a bad side of that, And like Maria is addicted to books. I used to be when I was a bit younger. I used to read 3-4 books at the same time, all the time. I just couldn't get enough of them. But again, I don't think that's a bad thing. But anything that becomes a force that you have to do and that you feel compelled to do is dangerous, and it's especially dangerous. Not just for writers or creative people, but for everybody, really. It's especially, addiction is unfortunately a thing that we humans are very want to do, and it can be very easy to fall into these traps. And as you just rightly said, very, very, very difficult to get out of them,
Yes.
And yeah, it can destroy your creativity. It can also become on many other levels, not just your creativity, but your actual human side, all those things. It can really damage
your interactions.
Yeah.
No, and the focus has been on drugs and alcohol for so long, but I don't feel it's a global understanding that you can be addicted to your phone, you can be addicted to social media, to gaming, to even staying home all day because of them and not interaction with people. It doesn't have to be like one thing that you spend all your day to. If you if you divide your time between different things that keep you at home all day, for example, or keep you from talking to people, it is still a very bad thing. And we don't realize, especially I think because COVID normalized us finding alternative ways to entertain ourselves and not spending time with people. I find myself less and less likely to want to go out. Then again, I am a house cat, so I'm having the best time when people are over and I cook for them. It's a Greek thing more than anything, maybe. But it is enabled by what's available at home. Like, I don't know.
Yes.
When I was a kid, unless your parents had purchased a computer, which no one needed in the early 90s, you'd have to go out and find like an internet cafe and play.
Yeah.
And now we have all those appliances and all those possibilities at home. So like another thing I'm trying to do to sort of force myself to spend less time in my phone is I've started sending voice messages instead of text messages, because I feel that way I get to hear people's voices, they get to hear my voice.
Yeah.
And makes us more likely to, why don't I actually call you? We're just speaking one after the other anyway. Text messaging just forces you to speak less, be more succinct, which at times is a very bad thing. So yeah, there are a lot of things that we can do, I guess. It's becoming increasingly difficult because, like Jeroen said, everything that you need during the day you can just have on your phone. No wallets, no maps, no anything really. You can scan things. It's crazy. But the first step, of course, is to just understand that it's not healthy to spend, 2 hours on your phone every day or something. So I don't feel we're being helped by perhaps science and everything. I don't think I've ever come across a scientific paper or something saying you should spend up to X amount of hours every day on this thing and that thing. Otherwise, it means you're addicted. And these are the bad things that come with it. They'll say things like, don't use your phone 1 hour before sleep because the blue screens overstimulate your brain and stuff. But there hasn't been put a limit on it. So it's very difficult to catch yourself on it. And then when it's something that's very pleasant, like playing a game, even on your phone or on a computer or something, or scrolling through other people's lives and stuff, you will not realize how much time you spend doing it. As you said, it's 45 minutes, and where did that time go?
Yeah. I think Jordan Peterson talks about that we are all new to technology. We don't know how to handle. I mean, to be honest, as a species, we started using technology on a daily basis, maybe at the beginning of the century, if not a bit later. So we're talking about a couple of decades, which is nothing, across human history. It's absolutely nothing. Like, it's no wonder that we are still trying to find our way. But I would say, going back to the addiction topic, the way to diagnose that it's an addiction is when you realize that you cannot say no, or you struggle to say no, one or the other. I would say if you struggle to say no, you are already addicted, but you are not. There is still there's still a way out without a lot of effort. But if you cannot say no, it's a very serious case. Like it doesn't matter what it is. If there's no way for you to not pursue that route, then it's a red flag. You must take action, because it's taking over your life, and it can ruin your mood, and sometimes it's not just the moment that you are engaging with your addiction, it's the before and after, because you can be too anxious about using that substance, and also the consequences of using that substance later. It's not just those, let's say, 10 minutes that you are doing the thing, whatever is that. If it's only 10 minutes, happy days. 10 minutes is nothing in your life, but it's a before and after, and often those 10 minutes are extended for a day, or if not two. And if repeated, after a while, this effect will last way longer, and down the road, it's a very, very serious thing. I think you were jumping here.
I was just going to say that I think that we are in a generation that we have an addiction issue, right? And I mean that I'd say that our generation is probably, the most exposed to be addicted to whatever it is. Is it drugs? Is it, adult content? Is it, I don't know. But I mean, we have so many stimulants coming in from everywhere. And every single one of them is possible to be addicted to. It is absolutely possible and very easy to get into it. Very, very easy. And like Maria was saying, we haven't worked out how to do the limits yet. And it's become normal. It's totally become normal. I watch people sometimes on the train just to see how their interaction is, and especially, let's say the young teenagers, and they're literally having a conversation while they're on their phone. Like it's not even doing it, like not even subtly. It's not even kind of like, I'm having a conversation with somebody. I'm going to now look at my phone. No, I'm on my phone and I've got it right here, and I'm having a conversation with the other person who's also on their phone. It's actually mad. And when we start to watch that, and you start to realize all of our interactions with people, all of our conversations with people, all the things that make life interesting are being defined by technology. We are probably, as a generation, I think we're facing so many stimulants, and all of them can be addictive, whether it's gaming, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's sex, whether it's whatever. It's all there, and it's right there at the touch of a button. You don't have to look for it. It's right in your face, and therefore it's extremely easy to access and extremely easy to get addicted to.
And it's normalized as well. Like you catch more and more people saying, "Oh, it's okay to do this. It's okay to do that. It's okay to have these." They're not even called addictions anymore. So it's interest. And like, okay, don't normalize it. At least let's be aware this is a bad thing. I choose to do it because I'm an adult, because I don't know, I make my own money to buy games, whatever it is. But don't pass it off as normal or as it's absolutely okay to do it, because everyone knows young people. Everyone has kids or nephews and whatnot. And then if you just present it as it's an okay thing because I'm an adult and I can do what I want, then it is becoming normal. And I don't know, I find it scary sometimes how, I don't know, we go from one thing to the complete opposite side and no one bats an eye about it.
And the other thing that I would add to that is that things that are happening around us are now becoming normal because we're being exposed to them all the time. So, hyper violence is normal because it's in a computer game. Those kind of things are all becoming very normal. That's all fine. The barriers are going down. There's no limits anymore. There's no, it's worrying for us as humans that all of these terrible things that we are now exposed to, and we see them as absolutely normal. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. And in there doesn't seem to, the limits don't seem to exist anymore in lots of things, or the morals, or the, you know, whatever. It just doesn't seem to be there. And it seems to be like, if you come at somebody with sort of morals or limits, or, you know, whatever, they nearly look at you like you have four heads. Well,
Yeah.
what? Sure, that's normal. No, not in my world is normal, you know?
And it's even celebrated, like some acts of violence are even applauded by others. When, I don't know, I remember my parents telling, like, if you don't like what someone is saying, just tell them. That's all we need to do. We don't need to slap them or beat them or shoot them, you know. But these days it seems that, or like, don't tell, okay, you have a problem with that person. You don't have a problem with that person's boss. Let's say you're not going to send a letter or an email to that person's boss that person will lose the job. It's not your business. You can confront that person's idea or, you know, opinion. That's fine, but you don't need to make that person's life miserable, or let alone take that person's life. But that's how it is. Like, sorry to be personal again. A couple of days ago, I received a death threat because of things I said on the internet. That's serious.
Well,
I mean, I think that's not normal. You know, I mean, I had in the past. It's not the first time. I had even like 20 years ago because of books. But I don't think that's normal. That I had a comment say, each and every single of you should die. No, that's unacceptable.
yeah.
It's absolutely unacceptable. You know, whatever thing I was saying, it doesn't justify that I should be shot or anything like that. So, you know, and another way around, you know, I'm not going around and I'm not telling people, because you think X and Y and Z, you know, you shouldn't be able to exist and express your views. No, whatever you say, and if I think it's full, I will tell it out loud. But I will defend to death, you know, your right to express yourself, and I expect the same from you. Okay, I think that's no, I think that's very, very similar. Sorry to be personal again, but just really pissed me off. You know, it's not normal.
It isn't normal. You know, the other day we were in, this was last Thursday, right? And somebody said to me, you know, there's a lot of police around near the office. And I was like, what? There's a lot of police around. What's going on? Oh, there's army there now too, right? Now, this is last Thursday. And there was an anthrax threat, right? In Dublin, last Thursday, there was an anthrax threat in the centre of Dublin. Did I see anything on the news about it? Zip. Zero. Right?
It's the first hearing of it.
This is it. That's what I'm saying.
I saw it on X.
It had become normal. So the fact that in Dublin, in Ireland, which is like a safe country, supposedly, you know, there was a threat that somebody had. There was an envelope with a powder in it, which could have been anthrax, right? And there was nothing at all about it. That's because all of those things have become normal. It's become normal to send anthrax to somebody. It's become normal to threaten to kill. What? Where do we live? Like, this is crazy, really crazy. I couldn't believe it. I was like, hang on a second. There's police, there's army, so there's got to be a bomb threat. I'm thinking, and then somebody said, yeah, no, it's an anthrax threat. An anthrax threat that was 200 meters down the road from where I was. But everybody was like, oh, well, okay, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. That is shocking.
On that topic of violence and sex that we're just discussing, so let's stay on the hard stuff now that we put our hands on it. So we're going to be brave. Jeroen, would you let us know whether there is still a place or space to write about those things? Because I think there was a time in history where writers were very much into erotic stuff or crime and all that. I don't think it's that trendy anymore, but I would like to get your perspective on that.
I think there's always a space to write about those things, and I think as humans, our problem is that we're curious. We like to explore certain things, and we often sometimes seem to like to explore the darker side of things. So I think there's always going to be a space to write about, something that's, let's say, X-rated, and I'm talking about, let's say, violence or whatever. There's always a space, and certainly me personally, I was recently writing something which was relatively violent, and I found that I was actually kind of enjoying is a strong word. It wasn't enjoying, but I was curious about my own reaction to how I would write that. Okay, but somehow the writing kind of flowed by itself, and I was curious about that in myself, because I was going, how is it that I'm describing something which is actually pretty gross and pretty, and I'm still describing it, but I'm still writing it very easily. I found that strange, and I was thinking about it afterwards, exactly that. And I just think that as humans, we have a bit of we're curious. We like the darker things sometimes in life, sometimes too much. We're curious about violence. We're curious about things, also things that are still considered taboo, if there are still taboos. We're curious about them. We kind of almost there is a reaction that we get to it. And I think there's always going to be that space. And there's always going to be, and there should be, within the confines of a book, or within the confines of it, that you're describing something that, is uncomfortable, is dark, is violent, whatever it is. We need that as humans. It's part of it, but it needs to be in the confines of a book, or whatever, in a contained environment, not, on the streets. You know what I mean? So there is always going to be space for that. And I think as people, we will always be slightly drawn to that. When you were a kid, and what books were you going to read? You were going to read the Stephen King books, the books that were a bit, do you know what I mean? Or the like, I don't know, the book of the Terminator or whatever it was. I mean, it's like violence, violence, violence. But that's the books that you're going to go to. That's the stuff you're going to go to. And as a writer, I find that sometimes it's interesting to watch myself write those kind of things that are a little bit darker, or a little bit. It's quite an interesting process, as long as it's contained within, a way of expressing oneself, which is, writing, or, in a book, or in a movie, for example, or whatever it is. I think there's always going to be that space. And I think it's just a human nature thing. That's some part of us is intrigued by the darkness, intrigued by the, whatever. Like, we like the mysterious, we like the dark, we like we're intrigued and a little bit afraid of it, but we're always trying to find out about it. So I think it's always going to be there.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, what you just mentioned. I think it goes to the whole idea that it's a writer's mission, or creative's mission in general, to expose what the society hides. Like, we need to reveal what is part of us, but for some reason others don't dare, or don't have the capacity or ability to express it. But somehow it needs to be part of the human conversations. And I think where creatives can fill a gap. So they know the human soul, they know what's happening closed doors. So that needs to be taught in some shape or form. And I think writers can fulfill that duty. So let's say having some strange interactions between neighbors, things that are happening in a strip club, you name it, things that you're not very proud of, but you know that they are part of you, and they are part of society, whether you like it or not. Those things are taking place today, and they did a couple of decades back, and they won't go away anytime soon, because they are on us. It's not that we are proud of it, but at least if we speak about them, I think if we speak about it, let's say in a creative fashion, I think chances are that we're not going to bring them to real life, because, as you said, we can experience them as a creative endeavor, and somehow I would say that can even be therapeutical, because you can get rid of that energy in a decent manner, and there won't be injuries, there won't be any sort of conflict or anything outrageous. So why not use creativity for that purpose? It reminds me, and I think I'm just bringing to some of our interactions, it reminds me a bit what we once talked about heavy metal, that in heavy metal you get rid of all this aggressiveness, masculinity, in a way that is innocuous, because it's all about celebrating the music, and at the same time you create a community, and if you need to be violent, you will be to protect your fellow rock community member. That's it. You won't be violent in any other situation. So it's somehow it's a positive thing if it is used, towards a noble purpose. Let's put it like that. I would like to get your perspective, Maria, from a female perspective, if you believe that there is a gender perspective on this. If you don't, I'm also happy to hear about it.
Yeah, I'd say it does play a role. Like, there are some books that appeal to everyone, I guess, but there are some books that would appeal more to men or to women, I guess, as is the case right now with the fantasy romance genre is having an all-time high. And it is a genre that mostly appeals to women because, as you know, all the fantasies of the dragon princess coming to save me and enemies to lovers and mermaids and all these concepts that are being explored more than ever now. There are so many books published that are feeding like the romance genre, they're feeding the fantasy genre, they're playing with all that, the female fantasy, if you like, that we wouldn't often express. Like, maybe when you're a teenager and you're thinking about, your star crashes and stuff like that, it's more okay to say to friends, oh, like I have this pirate fantasy or I don't know what, and I like pirates, especially, the generation that grew up with Pirates of the Caribbean and stuff. But then I think when you grow older, you cannot say to someone, oh, I like fairy romance. You wouldn't be taken seriously. So I think there are some genres that are very popular because perhaps we're not openly admitting to liking them or reading them, which adds a little bit to the extra, like Jeroen says, oh, I want to explore this, or like, it's not something I would easily talk to other people, so I want to give it a try and stuff like that. So yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of sway in different genres. There's a lot of themes that not that they weren't expressed before, but they're combined differently between them. But I think if there's one thing we can say about all of that is that nothing is really new. Like all the genres are out there already. So many ideas, so many things that would use to shock people. It's not like I'll publish a novel and the church will be after me because it's very shocking and the ladies of the court should not read it. All of this has been done. All the Cthulhu murders have been committed. So whatever is published now, it has lost that shock factor that used to be a thing of past generations, I feel. So now you are more free to explore, I guess, than it was before, but it has taken out that big shock factor of you will not believe what that guy just published, unless it's like what you call it, a public figure that says something that is really unconventional or unexpected or ambiguous, I guess, or whatever. The rest is like, oh, there's a book about, very graphic family abuse. There is a book about very explicit content. It doesn't shock anyone. And there's so many to choose from with varying degrees of like, especially like the sexual content. There's the light romance up to the like, oh my God, you need to go to therapy, sort of thing. So really big scale on everything, I feel. But yeah, there seems to be space for everything, really.
Yeah, that's interesting what you just said when it comes to shocking, because I think these days, I say, even if you write very graphic scenes, let's say sex related, just to be precise, there's nothing outrageous about it because people have access to the same stuff, on their phones, where there's like 20, 30 years ago, you had to wait for, this cable TV to show something on Friday night when your parents would be sleeping. That was my experience. I'm going to be very honest. I did that. That's why I started my addiction. So it's gone now. But that's how it starts. Now when you write graphic stuff, it won't be that disgusting, because you can see all sorts of wild stuff on the internet. Like, so whatever you write, it won't be shocking. But myself, I wrote a lot of graphic content because one of my favorite writers when I was younger, and those things stay whether you like it or not, were the libertines like Mahir Assad and Henry Miller and all that, and they were very much into it. But this was a different time of human history. So today I mix those things. I'm publishing actually a novel in Portuguese end of the year. I just got the final draft for review. It's called in English The Return of Ruben. It's not about Ruben Amorim. It's a different Ruben. It's also about the guy who returns to Portugal. And there are some interactions with women that I describe in a very crude manner. But what I find very curious is that my books are seen as ideologically conservative because of some political positions I have. But they kind of contradict that style. So often I repulse both publics, because this is more old-fashioned. They dislike sex-related content. And then the others, they say they do, which I'm not sure, but they say they do. But because of some views that I express there from a political standpoint, they are not interested. So that's why I think I probably would situate myself very similar to Michel Houellebecq, which is kind of descender from some of those writers, but with a very critical view of the so-called progressive society of these days. But it's interesting, these contradictions and how they stay with us. I want to ask Maria one thing on a similar note. Why do you think? And sorry that I keep you here as a female on this, but I really want to take advantage of that. Why do you think 50 Shades of Grey was that popular among women?
I haven't read the books. I haven't watched the movie, so it might be a very, distanced opinion. But I think it's because it played with some psychological complexes, like the need to be saved, for example, or the need to just, have the moody guy who everyone respects, but everyone is afraid of, find you that, one unique thing that he will destroy the world for. Those are things that a lot of women want, a lot of women fantasize about. And because it was placed in modern society, it sort of felt tangible. It felt like, it could happen to me with with my boss or with a client, for example. So it wasn't dragons and mermaids and stuff like that you do have a certain distance from. I think there was a time for it because, also it played with corporate life, which is a very big thing these days. So I felt it was very, I'm missing the English word at the moment, you could associate yourself with, you could feel that it's very relatable. Languages. I thought it was very relatable for a lot of people. And, I think why can't I speak today? There's a lot of people who have like the superhero savior complex and feel that I can help everyone, or if there's a person that has gone through a loss in life. And as a woman as well, like, you'd think, if I have a partner and I'm good to him and I make our house a home, it will help him go past his trauma. It fulfills like, an old traditional role that women are there to support and to make the house a home, basically. So the image of a guy who's very, very difficult to get and a lost cause could be a trigger for women who have perhaps more traditional values and think that should be my role. I'm not saying that this is bad or that it is good, just, again, just so that, I'm not misunderstood or anything. I don't think that there is any difference really between, choosing to stay at home, for example, and help in the house, or working in corporate and meeting that very dark boss guy. But I think because it's a more recent thing to have such an active professional life as a woman, perhaps there was a space for it, and there was a demand for it in the market to make this more relatable to women who are working in office, which is, how many decades has that really been a thing? I don't know. Before that, we had vampires, which, was another thing. I don't know why that was so popular, but I can definitely see why modern things like 50 Shades of Grey would have such a great appeal. It plays on things that you'd live, like the grind of going to the office, being on meetings. Oh my God, I'm so exhausted and I have to wear heels because the company has, a policy and all of that. It's things that we go through, and to romanticize them like that, you see that in movies as well. It has become very normal. There is a space for it. So yeah, for that series of books, anyway, that would be my guess.
Yeah. What is funny is that this 50 Shades of Grey success coincided with the peak of Me Too. It's another society contradiction, because there was all these movements for women empowerment. So you should believe each and every woman, no matter what. But at the same time, this book first, that movie, was booming. So that really tells that the fabric of humanity, it's quite complex. As much as we want to lean one direction, biology, we always have a word, and whether you like it or not, it's there. And I'm not taking sides here. It's just we are very, 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 very complex and full of paradoxes as a species. And maybe that's the beauty of it, because if you will be evident and obvious, it will be boring. So it's interesting to see that society sometimes is moving at a pace, and humanity is pushing another direction because it feels unnatural. It feels that we don't fit that puzzle, and we cannot adjust. I mean, we can, but it won't feel like the right thing to do. I always think that nature tends to heal by itself, just by realizing that there's something wrong with what we are doing and it needs to be fixed. And whether we like it or not, nature will dictate where we should go. And that's good, because that gives room for us to develop ourselves based on our choices. But at the same time, we are like kind of supervised by our own being, I would say. So with that, we can move to emotions, now that we're talking about ourselves, which is another complex topic. So today it's all complex topics. Why not? So how am I going to start that? I'm going to start with how we process emotions through writing, and how can writing help to heal in this in this exercise. Maybe Jeroen, I think you were the one bringing it in, so you take the honor.
Yeah, I think it was probably I am writing two different books. One is about my life, and recently I had to tackle a very difficult part of the book, and the difficult part of the book was the death of my father, the death of my mother, and the death of my daughter. So in a very short space of time, I lost three, very, very important people. And I came to the stage of the book and I was like, right, I need to write about this now. And I found that I couldn't. And I couldn't even put one word down. It just didn't work. So I found myself going back to other paragraphs before, and editing and messing around basically in order to avoid what I knew was unavoidable. And it was it was a difficult process, quite a difficult process, in order to be able to actually get started on that. I was getting annoyed at myself because I knew what I was doing. I was procrastinating. I wasn't getting to the meat of the matter, if you like. And and I said, right, I have to get this down in some way, some way or another. And then when I actually started to write it, it was the process of writing it started to become clearer to me, the experience of losing those people, and what that had meant to me. And I was still trying to maintain the way that I had written everything else up to that point. And I'll be honest, it was, I mean, look, it was also probably the most difficult time of my life, 100%. But it was also very difficult to actually get that down in words and to describe what it is to lose somebody who's that close to you. It happened, and I've got it down now, but it was a very difficult process. But once I started doing it, and once I actually started to say, now we are going to put this down, and I don't care how it comes out, it actually helped me in a way clear up some of the emotions that had been repressed or that had not come out completely. And I could look at them. I've spoken about this before. When you write, you can look at happenings or emotions in a different way, in a sort of a almost like you're above it. You can look at it from above, and that's definitely what I felt like. I was watching myself writing this, having a difficult time with it, but the process of actually writing it made it a bit easier to take, and also made it a bit easier to try to comprehend. I mean, death is not an easy thing to comprehend, but it's one thing that we're going to face. Every one of us is going to face at some point. But it made the understanding of it a little bit better. And that's, again, to the point we've discussed this loads of times before about writing being therapeutic. In that case, I think it was the best form of therapy that I could, do. And it certainly helped me. However, I find that it's quite tricky to go back and read it again. So there's other parts of my book I will go back and I will constantly, edit or change, or maybe I'll move around or whatever. That's now, it's pretty fresh. So I only wrote it in the last 2 weeks or so. But that part I have not gone back to just yet. I find it still too raw and still too painful to look at it. But it is helping me get through that, or to find some place for it, because there's things that happen in life that, are not you. It's very difficult to place them, and you're emotional, and there's a whole lot of things around them. There's things that are very difficult to place them, but I'm now finding that I'm definitely the placing of it has become easier. So
Yeah,
it's an interesting phenomenon. And I find myself now kind of going, well, I'm not going to be as afraid to tackle the harder stuff going forward as I was about this. Because this is possibly the worst thing that I've had to write, So it's definitely helped me going forward that I would be able to tackle other subjects that are going to be really hard, but with the eye of, if I can get them on paper, it'll help me process them.
Yeah, I want to, before I pass to Maria, I want to explore that moment when you were stuck writing about the death of your daughter's father and mother. I want to explore that, just share something that I observed yesterday, but probably it's connected to what you just described. So I met a good friend yesterday before the court came, and he has a friend. Actually, one of his best friends is dying of cancer, and his good friend is just 40, which is devastating. So basically, his good friend has a few weeks, if not less. We don't know exactly, but we're talking about it among other topics. And I realized that my friend was trying to say that he is about to die without saying it. So he would say he won't be with us in a few weeks. He won't be around. He wouldn't say with the exact word, he will die in a few
Yeah.
weeks. We all tend to avoid that when it hurts. The same, let's say, when you have a pet and you bring him to the vet, to get that terrible injection. So we tell that we put our pet to sleep. We don't say that this pet just died. And most people need like months to say it with all the words. So I would like to explore with you whether you think that writing was some sort of acknowledgement of something that you don't want to accept. Was that the stuff that was on the way for you to getting the job done, or was something else?
I think there was a couple of things. I think it was the fear of the emotion coming out. It's come out before. I've worked on it. I've gone to therapy about it. So I've worked it through. But I was afraid that it was going to come out again. I think that was part of it, and I think then the other part of it was, in a certain way, I felt almost exactly what you mean. What you hit the nail on the head. It was almost, if I wrote this, it means it's actually happened.
Yes.
And I almost had this moment of, if I don't write this, well, maybe it actually hasn't happened. I know that that's completely irrational, stupid, because it has happened. However, writing it seemed to be almost like, well, then I'm accepting that it's happened. So it was very strange, and it was that kind of almost physical, kind of crushing feeling. I can't put this down in words now. And that was the reason why I couldn't. And I had to look at it, and I had to look at it carefully for myself and go, well, what's stopping you doing this? You have to tackle it. It's happened. It's part of your story. It's part of your life. And that's what you're trying to write down. So you need to get over yourself and get it down. But it was not an easy process. And I think you're definitely right. There is a certain, death is an extremely complex issue with humans, and you're right. We terminate. We phrase it in a nice way. Oh, he won't be with us, or he's resting now, or he's at peace now. And those are all things that are there to make us feel better. It's I think we have a real difficulty with it. We can't face death. Is something we're all going to face, but yet we can't face it, and it's something that a lot of people are afraid of. But it is going to happen. But if it's already happened, and one of the things that I definitely noticed was, if I write that down, I've accepted that this has happened.
Yes.
This is a very strange thing. I know it's happened. It has happened. But writing it down was almost like it's a final acceptance. And I didn't want to finally accept it.
It's a defeat. I'd say it's a defeat that you don't want to admit. It's the same that, of course, I'm not comparing the hardship. Huh? Don't get me wrong. But let's say you are playing a final, that's the Champions League final, just to make it simple, and you are on the loser side, and you get a medal confirmed on the loser side. You don't want that fucking medal. You just don't. You don't want that. No. You'd rather go and take a shower, or go home and sleep, or have a few drinks, but you don't want that medal. No, don't put it around your neck. You don't want to have that.
That's why you see them all taking it off straight away. Do you know what I mean? That's a good analogy to it, but it's a whole other level of it. But that is a good analogy. It's that kind of, and
stamp. It's like a stamp. I'm confirming it, and I'm using my own hands. Stamp.
Yeah.
And you don't want that. Okay, it happened. It was outside of my control. I'm admitting, but I don't want to be part of that story. It's taking place, but it's not because of me. And the moment you write it, you are kind of collaborating, let's say, in some sense or form. I'm not going to stay on the death topic because we could be here for ages. And again, Jeroen, we had these conversations in private. But maybe once we can use it as a theme for one of our workshops. I think writing and death or finitude. I think it's what I'd say to be enough for a whole workshop. But we explore it in a separate fashion. I would like to understand, Maria, what are the emotions that you enjoy exploring? And they can be dark, as death. And what are the emotions that you rather not expand in your writing because they are not a good, they're not suitable, let's say?
No, so I had quite a different journey than what Jeroen had. For me, I would always write something since I was very young. Even poems when I was, in elementary school, leading up to an attempt at a novel at some stage and stuff. And there came a time in my life where I was very sick and I stopped writing. And I got to where I am now by rediscovering, essentially, because I also forgot that I like to write, because I went to therapy to deal with my illness, and the therapist suggested, why don't you scribble some things down? And I started doing that, but it was my husband's suggestion as well. And then she asked to read it, my therapist, and I had written a fantasy piece that I didn't think much about. And she told me, reading this, it is so apparent that you went through what you went through, because I was masking it under the pretense of a monster that's threatening someone, and the actions that person takes to protect not themselves, but the village he's been living for a time. And to me, it was, as I said, it was a fantasy piece. It's a bad monster, snap, snap, I have to kill it. But she saw an analogy between what I had gone through and what I was writing and how I was writing it. And that was shocking for me, because I had not considered writing down about what had happened to me, about how it affected my family, the people that I loved. Losses as well was another thing that I had not thought to deal in writing. So thus began as a sort of therapy, and I'm incorporating a lot more of it these days, not directly, but without thinking about it. I feel that I have recurring themes, and they're getting easier and easier to write about. And I found out that I'm actually much darker than I thought I was, because I'm writing a lot about death. It seems to be my favorite thing, and loss, and people going through hard things. And I think all my characters would hate me if they were actually real, because I make them I make them go through so many things anyway. But I think it is therapeutic, but I think the hardest part with it is that grief has stages, and acceptance is the very last of them. In my opinion, in a lot of cases, the most difficult to get at. And not only death, just any kind of loss, really. It could be making changes in your life and you're mourning, oh, remember the time that I was single, I used to have so much fun and everything. So I think change, whether it's permanent, if you're religious, it's not permanent, but for for argument's sake, permanent in your earth life, or if it's something easier to deal with, I find that I write about them a lot. And the things that I'm having difficulty with, emotions that I find difficult to express, are happy emotions. Not love necessarily. I'd like to write a bit more about, people showing their love to each other without actually speaking it, because that's a love language that I grew with as well, in part. We're doing actions for each other. We spend time for each other. We do a lot of things for each other. We take steps back, but we don't say I love you. So it was a thing that sort of was different for me when I moved here, because I feel that people say I love you more here than we do in Greece, especially, in between families. So happy emotions, I have a difficulty writing. I don't like it as much, because I'm fortunate enough to feel I'm having a happy life. So that's not what I need to target. I don't need to fantasize about it. I don't need to portray it. What I need to get out of my system is how devastating things can be, the loss of, I don't know, your memory, the loss of your family, the loss of your life the way it used to be. Those are what I like to explore and sort of, feel I'm very experienced in them in a way. And somehow they feel comfortable to me. And sometimes the darker it is, the better it is for me. I don't know if there's like, some sort of fountain that I need to completely dry to be okay again. Maybe we'll see, I guess. But I'm finding dark themes, sadness, and a little bit of gore recently that came out of left field for me. Because I don't like gore, don't watch horror films, but somehow I like writing about them. Something. Yeah, this is what I'm most comfortable with, and I'm getting more experienced in writing about them as well. So I posted a story the other day, a short story that I had written in the past. I hadn't edited it, and then because of that platform, Readsy, that I'm publishing my short stories, they have a prompt every week, and under that specific prompt, it applied to my story, or my story applied to it. So it works. It had been years since I wrote it. It became darker than it was at that time, but it became better in my humble opinion. So I guess you can get more familiar with it, and it can feel more therapeutic. But there are times, like there are some people in my life that I've lost, that if I try to write down the phrase, my grandpa died on the 18th of December, I feel I'm going to collapse. So there are some things I don't go around. I may talk about them in a different way. Like I may use the likenesses of these people or their characters in some stories that I'm writing. That makes me feel connected with them. But I don't think I am ready to deal with some things head on. And that's why one of the novels that I'm sort of trying to work on is inspired from my personal experience when I was sick. Because in a lot of those situations, people will wish you well, whatever is going wrong with you or your family or whatever, and then they'll forget about it. So a big part of what I'd like to write about is the after, because we all know, or can all say, condolences to someone, or I'm here if you need any support or anything, and then it's gone. But the surviving part of the loss or the sickness or of the whatever is also very, very difficult. And I feel that's a very good part of what therapy does. It targets that. It doesn't make it okay to be like, oh, that thing happened to you in the past, it's done. I don't believe in that. I think there are some things that happen and they're never done. And perhaps this is, my personal opinion, doesn't apply to anyone, but I find that when you write about them, you are helping yourself work towards acceptance. It's make it okay that they have scarred you for life and you're living with that and you're a changed person because of them. Because I hate the idea that someone would come to me and say, which has happened, by the way, and I was furious after the initial shock. But that's all in the past. What do you care about it? It's never over, and writing is a very good way to deal with it. If you put it on paper, it's not over, but it's not over in a good way, because acceptance is perhaps the most difficult stage, but it's also a very healthy place to be at eventually, or wherever you arrive there. So I don't know, I'm definitely not a happy comedic writer. So if you're already feeling down, maybe don't pick up something that I've written. But other than that, yeah, therapy. We can say it in every podcast, in every session. If it's one thing that writing does, it makes you feel better, and it calms your brain, and it makes everything that you have to say okay. Or if it's not okay, it helps you realize it, because it's different when you write it in a piece of paper and you say, what the hell is this? So very, very good on all fronts.
Yeah. Well, I think life is bittersweet. There's no way around. It's composed of positive and negative moments, and it doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter your wealth status, doesn't matter where you live. That's just the way it is. You can be luckier than the average human being, but there will be dark days and shiny ones. So that's how life is going to be. And as Marie just mentioned, the the quickest you accept, the better it's going to be for you on the long run. So I think writing will echo, the nature of life, of good and bad elements. So like I realize that I write a lot out of anger, but I always need to add, and I mentioned this, I always need to add humor. There's no way around. I cannot make something dark from beginning to the end. I think like life is already unsettling enough to replicate it on writing. You need to add something that it's I wouldn't say necessarily light-hearted, but at least it's funny. I think I find it essential, because also because it will help you to enjoy the whole process of writing. If you add some comic aspects, then chances are that you're going to have a better time. I'm not prescribing this to every single writer. We are all different. That's the beauty of it. But for sure, in my writing process, it does help, and it's an encouragement me to go back to that place, because I know I'm going to have a blast writing. For instance, yesterday I was at a Cork game. I wrote a piece on that game, and we lost 4-0. So that was very dark for a Cork fan. So I read the piece after, and again I wrote like a clown. I wrote like a clown. I had to make it in a way that would be comic, and I think it's funny. I don't know how other people will find it funny, but I try to share my whole experience of watching that game, which was dreadful in every single aspect, as something that can be enjoyable. And I don't think I had that intention at the start. It just happened naturally. Maybe that's just the way I am. I was at the game, and I was keep telling to the players extra on the pitch, this team is a disaster. And I said it, I don't know, every 5 minutes. Maybe I had a few drinks before, but anyway, I was keep saying this team is a disaster. And I mentioned that on the article, but that's how I saw the game. But somehow I made it positive, in the sense that I didn't regret being there, if you know what I mean. Like, the team was hammered, everyone was upset, everyone meaning Cork fans. But if you would ask me today if I would rather have been at home if I knew the result, hell no. I was happy to be there, and I would go again. Hopefully next time, with a more positive outcome. But still, it's necessary. But just going to the nature of life. Life is not an easy thing. And I don't want to bring death to the discussion, but I think there's no way around. The fact that we don't know what is at the end makes it very unsettling. We don't know what death is, and no one knows. Like, I hate to hear someone saying there is an afterlife. I know it. There is nothing. I can guarantee you. Like, what the freak do you know? What the freak do I know to tell you that you are wrong? It's one of those things that are way beyond the human understanding, and you need to be humble and live with it. Like, there's no such proof that the person is resting. There's no such proof that the person is surrounded by demons. We don't know. We just don't know. We just don't interact with the person in the way we did when the person was around, and same will happen to us. And I think that explains, like, as sweet as life can be, say, for, I don't know, I'm going to be optimistic, for a weekend. I don't think life can be more I don't think sweetness can last more than a couple of days continuously. Yeah? I'm not being that negative here. There's always that thing bothering you on the background. Whether you are obsessed with death or not, I think it's on us. I think many people are not aware of finitude. They don't think about it, but somehow it's disturbing them, because it's embedded on our DNA. That there's no way around. Like, we come across death in many aspects of our life. Even going back to the first topic, on the phone, if you open social media, for sure there is something related to death on your feed. whether it's a celebrity that just passed away or someone whose pet is very sick and they're asking for a prayer, or a poem about finitude. There is something about death, because death is, as we were saying, is part of the deal. So it's a very strange emotion because we don't know how to process it. But it's revealing of the bittersweet nature of life. Anything else you want to add on the emotion side of the house? Anything?
Well, I guess, a little bit like Maria, I find that writing the happier things is harder, weirdly, because I'm a pretty positive person. I'm a pretty positive, like I think I have a happy life, but I think she hit it on the nail on the head, that maybe that's why we need to express that dark side, or that whatever. But it's an interesting process to write about emotional things. I really, and this is now why I start to realize why psychologists will say to you, write stuff down, like Maria was just talking about, and that kind of thing, because it is actually, by writing it, you are expressing it, but you're also accepting it, and you're kind of dealing with it, if you know what I mean. Which I hadn't realized in its full extent until very recently. It's quite an interesting, if you can look at it from a little bit further back, it's an interesting thing, because everybody's going to deal with emotional stuff. There's going to be emotions, good, bad, all of that kind of stuff. It's kind of part of who we are. We are emotional beings. But it's interesting to see how we process those. And I have discovered that, for me, writing is one way of doing it. There are others, and there's many others, and everybody has their own way of doing it. But I just think personally, I think I have now discovered, again, this is another thing that I've learned from writing, that, for me, it's allowing myself to process things that maybe I didn't allow to happen before,
So is it fair to say that as writers we are emotional individuals, but when it comes to the process of executing those emotions in writing, we have to somehow be more rational than we are on a day-to-day basis?
And I think sorry, Jürgen.
I would agree with that. Go ahead, Maria. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut it.
No, I was cutting you. I was about to say that I think part of the beauty of writing is that it's interactive when you're talking about something that's meaningful to you, right? There was a traumatic thing that happened to my family a couple of years back, and I wrote on it because I was in therapy at the time. And I happened to find that piece of paper earlier this year, and I had really improved. I would not have written the same things down like 2 years after the fact. So that person who was writing these words is very far removed from who I am today. So that showed me I don't feel this way anymore. I'm still, damaged. I'm still in pain, but I don't feel as strongly about it. So it's like it's interactive. It's like you're talking to yourself. So if you're writing about, on a theoretical, like on a hypothetical, a novel or something, it is still very good. But it's even really good to just write things down for no specific purpose. You might, even end up using it as a basis for something to write, or you might do yourself a favor and get back to it after some time and say, I'm doing better because this is not how I feel anymore. It's easier for me now to handle, this or that. And so it's another, argument towards, you don't have to write to publish. You don't have to write for a living. You just have to write down anything, and it is always a good thing for you.
100%. I totally agree with you.
So we were very open, transparent, and tangible in this episode. I really enjoyed it, and I want to promise our viewers that will be the manner going forward. And we even were discussing today or yesterday, I can't remember, that we are planning to read some of our stuff, that people have an understanding of what are we writing, because we mentioned that we write this, we write that, but perhaps it would be useful if you can illustrate with some samples. So here is the promise for the viewers. We plan to do that, if not next episode, in one of the upcoming ones, and I think it's going to be enjoyable for everyone, and perhaps can open interest from publishers and readers and all that, and we can all make the most of it. So, guys, I wanna thank you for being present here, being yourselves. Again, it's a massive pleasure to be here every month. And I want to encourage the viewers to do something. So we have topics, and we are not short of ideas. But if you want to share something, if you want to suggest a theme for us to explore, use the chat box or send me an email. We are more than happy to pick them for one of the upcoming episodes, because this is not just 3 people talking to each other. This is a whole group brainstorming ideas. That's the definition of workshop. So again, thank you. Thanks, Jeroen. Thanks, Maria. It was fantastic. And and I hope to see you very soon in person. We will do that. We'll meet in person very soon, because Maria and I, just for the viewers, we never met.
No,
we never met.
We're screen buddies.
We never met. Maybe one day I just get on the bus and say, we're going to meet for a coffee in Wicklow one of these days. Yeah, just to get it done. Yeah. Let me also encourage people to press those 3 buttons below, like if they enjoy what we did here or we have been doing for a few months, subscribe, that will be notified of the coming episodes, and share, because there's always someone who for some reason missed this conversation and they may benefit. So share and send it over on WhatsApp, on email, whatever is the best way to share. I also want to pre-announce that I won't be doing anything tomorrow with Marco because it's Rosh Hashanah, but I'll be doing a League of Ireland conversation with our good friend Cornell Jeroen, who is now watching a win on Chelsea. I saw the score a couple of minutes ago. Chelsea was winning 2-1.
Yay!
So, but I don't divert to football, but Lincoln was winning at halftime. So
yeah,
that was heartbreaking for Cornell. I don't know how is it now. So yeah, Cornell will be back on Thursday for those who enjoy his expertise on football. And we also have John O'Shea, who was on the football podcast a few months back before the break. And he's brilliant. He's an Echo and RTE reporter, and he's a Cork fan, which is also a very important note. So with that, what is that? Cool. Football, yeah. Maria, so you can join the discussion on Thursday to get all
I will have to learn eventually.
Yeah. You're going to have
I love it, Maria. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Really
I have to be transparent. We're very transparent in this episode. I can't just nod and pretend I know what you're talking about. But football, yeah, I guess.
The only word you need to know is Cornell. That's it. Cornell. That's the only word you need to remember. That's
when
it.
we do an episode about chess, I'll show you.
Right.
Brilliant.
Good evening, and we'll see each other very soon. Take care.
Thank you very much, guys. Take care.
Bye.